Welcome back to Case Closed, Anime Review Episode 123. This I'm viewing the 1012th episode of the series. Well, yeah, 1012. I don't know why the heck it's written like this, but yeah. Which is called Picking Wild Plants and Clovers. Yeah, this one finishes up chapter 1033 and goes to 1034. Yep, and that's as far as it's going to go. And in case you're curious, though, yes, next week is going to be an original one. So this one picks up after the recap, picks up where we left off last week. We have Yuma and one of his, let's just say one of his subordinates, go see the villa from last episode. See, look, a pool of blood. And do they actually go inside this villa? No, they don't. They show what looks like a flashback inside of it, and I'm thinking, okay, this is a nice looking like villa, like house, and you don't have the characters go inside. What is up with that? Manga did the same thing, so I'm not gonna blame the. Excuse me, I'm not gonna blame TMS for that. It's mostly gonna be a flashback, where apparently they found the victim's actual girlfriend, well, a woman claimed to be his girlfriend, in a what looks like a wardrobe that he has a closet. It looks like one of those wardrobes where she was basically covered in the victim's blood and looks like she was basically passed out. And apparently she has a fear of dark places. Basically, she's claustrophobic. And Yuma reveals, oh yeah, I've got classmates like that, so this is quite fishy. So later on, basically, they make some assumption, and of course, Conan just halfway there make an assumption that that she couldn't possibly, point out that she couldn't be the one to do it because she was a very weak woman. And of course, Conan got bopped in the head for it. I haven't seen that in a while. And of course, go back like, Sensei, here's your child. Take back your child, please. And then of course Conan figures out, oh yeah, well, it looks to the ground like, oh, this van was moved. They had the fact of some tire tracks there, and of course, after some chatting, and then of course Conan does something he's never done before Watsuba before. He proceeds to bring over Yusuma. He says, oh look at this in the tree. Knocks him out. Apparently Watsuba sees that. Somehow. And he goes and gets knocked in the tree, and his butt's in the air. Of course, he rearranged where basically, oh yeah, it was a joke. And then basically, thanks to some conversation, it was not the girlfriend. It was actually the teacher that was with them the whole time. He was actually right that she was the one. He had evidence. And in case you're curious, though, how did the van move without being heard? Put it in neutral. And the way it was moved, of course, they had the one who's 28, is the Shiba, where she basically moves things via basically using her left arm to move the drivers will move it back, and it's going to be a flashback that Zenora, she did this while Ami was looking for her earring. And she basically tried to look for it and it looked like the other thing moved. Yep, and the reason why that they weren't able to see the body was quite obvious. The cardboard boxes. Yes. Now, they don't really explain exactly where the heck Zanello got those things, but yeah, and the reason why she killed him? Quite obvious. Because he was a con man. Yep, all because he was a con man. I'm like, yeah, anybody probably would do that. So, and of course, Ami thinks she's a good person. And she's like, no, I'm actually not a good person. So why don't you give that forward Clover that Conan basically points out, though? Well, actually, it's, Yutama, who has, Ami find it, of course, there it is, tries to give it to her. And then, of course, she gets arrested. Wakes up. And then Ami decides to give it to Watsuba. Puts her in her handkerchief. And then she doesn't, I'll treasure it. And then, of course, she allows it to open. And, of course, Conan sees this. And the four-leaf clover flies away. And if you're curious, though, does a four-leaf clover ever appear in the manga ever again? No. No, it doesn't. As for Watsuba herself, I believe this is her most recent appearance to date, because I have never seen her in anything else. No, not really. Which is quite interesting. Yeah. Well, see, she actually does not appear after this. Well, actually, no. She does appear in a recent story arc, yes, in the Time Capsule arc, which actually was the second to most recent arc they released. But yeah, she has not appeared in. Well, actually, scratch. She has appeared in a couple more story arcs after this one. She appeared in. Oh yeah, Trap at the Farm, which is where she. Basically, there's still about three more story arcs she does appear in. Government Dilemma, yeah, that was a quick standalone one. So basically, about three more story arcs left, and that's it. Yeah, interesting thing comes to this woman is that this woman does not appear very much. Oh no, she doesn't. Yeah, as for why in the world she decided to let go of the Floor Clover, who know? Well, probably because of her split personality. Yeah, it's not really been explained exactly why she acts the way she does, but she's very clumsy. And of course, Conan seeing her being very angry about it. Well, aside from that, there's not really much else here. It's an okay episode. I'm not going to blame TMS for the faults of this particular story arc. It's a particularly very weak story arc, and, well, they probably had to adapt it because it was the very next one. But in case you're curious, though, is the next arc a little better? Is the next one, which is the anti-fossil arc, is that better than this one? Yes. A little bit, but not by much. Basically, it does feature return of two characters that have been seen a little bit. It does feature return of Massimo Sarah, who actually was seeing two arcs of this one. And, of course, her elder brother. He has not appeared in a little while. But in the case of when in the world that be adapted, I don't know. Because, well, this is the most recent one they released so far. And the next two episodes are in originals. Yeah, the next one's called The Man Who Loved Too Much, which is probably a play on the title for the movie The Man Who Knew Too Much by the late James Stewart. It's probably a play on that, but excuse me, not much else to say about this one. It's okay. Yeah, this particular story I was not really a big fan of, and when it came to the ending of this particular, the final chapter they adapted, that was the last chapter I read for when I was bench reading this manga. Because that was the last one I read, because I was going to review it with that particular chapter, with that chapter 1034. That's what I was going to do. But there was a reason why I didn't, and it's a very good reason. It was the final chapter of a story arc. They just ended that particular arc, that particular chapter. So I figured, though, start with the very next chapter and review that forward. And as of right now, I reviewed the previous 41 chapters that have been released so far. Yep. The last one I reviewed was chapter 1075. Yeah, that was by far the most recent one. As far as I can tell, I don't think there's scheduled for like any. I know the next one's supposed to come out next week. That's when chapter 1076 comes out. And I'm gonna be curious to like, is it going to be another 3-part again? Because that's the weird thing about the manga right now. The past 3 story arcs have been 3-parters. Yes. Well, if you're curious, though, about the arcs coming afterwards, this one's basically like 1, 2, it's like 4-parters in a row. Actually, it's a lot of 4-parters. Basically, for the next one, let's see if this one's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, the next 5 story arcs are all 4-parters. And starting with the 303rd arc, you have 2 3-parters. The longest arc you have here is the FBI serial murder case. This one's roughly 6 chapters. Yeah, 6 chapters. And then you have basically a 3-parter. Yeah, that's an interesting thing when it comes to the arcs that come right after this one. It's like, a few, like, they're just basically like, seems like 4-parters tend to be very popular for this one. Like, the writer likes doing just 4 parts and that's it. If you're thinking to like, what's going next one, it's Antique Faucet. Yeah, that's the next one. It's only about 4 chapters, so it depends upon when we're going to see this particular one adapted. My guess is probably have to wait about 9 episodes, but given how much episodes between this case and the last one, it was only about 6. It's like a 5 episode, so I'd say by probably about this is just my personal theory. I think by either 1017 or 1018, we might see the start of the very next arc of the series. But that depends upon, well, TMS for that. Okay, so that's it for Signal Review. I'm going to try to do one more review before I close out tonight, and I'll be a Comic Corner, okay? Next video. Bye.